God provides, God speaks. Exodus Narrated Collection. God provides manna and quail. The people walked thirsty and tired through the desert and soon began to complain. "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to die here of hunger?" they cried, remembering the bread and comforts they had left behind. Moses heard their cries and prayed. The Lord answered, "I will rain bread from heaven for you. Each morning you will gather what you need." At dawn, the ground was covered with a strange white thing like frost on the sand. They called it manna, soft flakes they could gather and bake. Children tasted it and smiled. The camp was amazed. When evening came, quail filled the sky and landed in the camp, giving meat for those who hungered at dusk. Yet God also gave a rule: gather only what you need each day. Whoever tried to hoard the manna found it spoiled by the sun. On the 6th day, Moses told them to gather twice as much, for the 7th day was a holy rest, the Sabbath. That day they did not gather. They trusted God and rested. Through this provision, the people learned to depend on God day by day. God met their need, taught them obedience, and gave them a rhythm of work and rest. The manna and the quail were more than food. They were signs that God cares for His people when they trust and obey. Water from the rock. The people of Israel traveled from place to place in the desert, and soon their water ran out. Thirst and fear spread through the camp. They complained to Moses, "Why did you bring us up from Egypt to die here of thirst?" Their voices rose in anger and worry. Moses was troubled and turned to the Lord in prayer. God answered him, saying, "Take the staff, gather the people before the rock, and I will show you water." Moses obeyed. He lifted his staff and struck the rock at God's command. At once water gushed out, clear and cool, filling the dry sand with life. The people hurried to drink. Children laughed, and elders wept with relief. Even the animals drank. In that place they remembered God's help and named it Massa and Meribah, a reminder of testing and quarrel and a lesson about trusting God. This short moment shows our need to turn to God in trouble, to obey His direction, and to remember His provision. When God tells us to act in faith, He provides what we need, even in the driest places. Moses lifts his hands to heaven. Amalek defeated. Amalek attacked the Israelites from the rear, striking the tired and stumbling people as they traveled through the desert. Joshua gathered the fighting men and went out to meet the enemy, while Moses went up a nearby hill to pray, holding his staff in his hand. As Moses stood with arms raised toward heaven, something strange happened. Whenever his hand stayed lifted, Israel gained the advantage. When his arms grew heavy and began to fall, the enemy pushed back. Seeing this, Aaron and Hur ran to Moses' side. They found a stone for him to sit on and held up his hands, one on each side, so his arms stayed steady until sunset. With Moses' hands held high and Joshua pressing the attack, the Israelite troops routed Amalek. The people celebrated the victory, and Moses built an altar and called it, "The Lord is my banner," a sign that God had led and helped them in battle. This story shows that prayer and faithful leadership matter, and that friends who support one another can keep hope alive. When we stand together in faith and help the weary, God's strength can turn the tide. At Mount Sinai, God speaks to His people. The Israelites camped at the foot of Mount Sinai, and the mountain filled the sky with clouds and distant thunder. Moses climbed up to meet God while the people prepared, washing, folding cloaks, and keeping a marked distance because the Lord's presence was holy. God spoke from the cloud and gave clear instructions. The people were to be a special nation devoted to Him. Moses came down and told them the words, "You shall have no other gods before me. Do not make idols. Honor the Sabbath. Respect your parents. Do not steal, lie, or harm others. Be content with what you have." These were the 10 Commandments, simple rules to love God and care for neighbor. The people trembled at the mountain's voice and asked Moses to speak for them. Moses calmed them and reminded them that God's law was meant to protect and bless them. The people answered, "We will do everything the Lord has said." They promised to obey and remember the covenant. This moment at Sinai shows that God calls us to listen, to live justly, and to love one another. When we hear God's words and follow them, our lives and our communities are shaped by justice, mercy, and faithful worship.